can't unring the bell. Ringing app.
So good to finally meet you.
I'm gonna kill your company. We're not happy. We're
Alive! And with that, I begin.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we are discussing the season 1 finale of Severance.
I understand that you're unhappy with the life that you've been given.
The episode begins with a brief reminder of the switch being flipped last episode, this cool transition, and then a jarring awakening that Mark goes through. Opening his eyes to Miss Cobell asking if he is all right. It really was the worst moments that he could have had, other than the example that they gave last episode of them driving. Imagine merging into a freeway and then another version of you who doesn't know how to drive just suddenly takes over.
Maybe you should talk to your sister. It's an important decision.
He has no idea what she is talking about, but last episode we heard him convey to her that he was thinking about quitting Lumon.
Severance thing, I'm not sure I need it anymore.
Mark stays on track pretty much the entire time, regardless of how tense of a moment and conversation this was. He is gathering information, he's trying not to be too obvious with his ignorance, and feeling like the world is noticing his alien occupation in this foreign land. Irving, on the other hand, got a pretty good switch. He was mid-painting and immediately sees this image that he himself does not recognize, but of course we know that it could have only come from his side of the logical brain that witnessed it. Helly also got a pretty bad switchover. She's at the Eagan family gala, already in her dress and makeup, mid-convo with Natalie when it happens. It is not ideal, and we hear a little bit more of the senator talk in the background just to highlight the importance, and then...
Hi. Gabby, this is Helena Eagan. My gosh, Helena. So good to finally meet you.
This is Gabby, and we first meet her when Devin, of course, goes to her cabin in the retreat when she was severed. I hate this woman. The actress did too good of a job, and it really feels like she is the fakest smile in the world and pretends to not know who Helena Eagan is because they haven't been formally introduced. It invalidates the important family a great deal, and I wonder if that's purposeful or if the other version of Helly would have, allowed that slight to happen, right? It's kind of disrespectful. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but she is the person who's about to speak. She volunteered to sever in order to prove that it's not bad. The whole company knew her face. It's disrespectful. I can feel it. But again, the actress just did such a good job here. We also need to back up a little bit here.
Who are you?
Oh, sorry, a little too far.
I was on with the board earlier. They're really grateful for this.
This line bothers me greatly. Well, it interests me greatly. It turns whatever Helena is about to do into a favor for the board, and she's a member of the Eagan family. She has that power and status. It's as if the board was higher than her status-wise, and maybe that's true. I think it's probably true. Like, a board of directors has more power in real life compared to the Nepo baby about to take charge.
Hey, hello. Hi.
This is when the intro plays, and as I'm trying to figure out the best way to organize my thoughts here, I think I want to break the video into 4 sections, making each the chronological, unbroken study of what our heroes went through on this trying day, rather than switching between the narratives as it does in the show, which it does pretty frequently and quite fast at times. I want to start with the most difficult storyline to follow, and that, of course, is Dylan.
This better be working, assholes.
That's it. Just kidding. Dylan holds these switches for somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour, if I had to guess. It's really not the longest time ever, but holding your arms up like that is, for either of those lengths, is quite impressive. Proof that his Audi is truly doing muscle shows, if you ask me. Most of the episode goes by before Mr. Milchick gets the call from Miss Cobell about Dylan, and we see him sprinting to a closed door.
I know you're in there, Dylan. Open the door!
Fuck you, Mr. Milchick!
They exchange a little bit of dialogue, and the whole thing feels like Mr. Milchick is in panic mode. He's lying, he's bribing in order to get him to open up. Of course, our hero isn't falling for it.
I bet the Tempers were disappointed. I can still get you back in there.
So yeah, this line. In light of the article that proves that he was meant to touch tips with the dancers, Mr. Milchick is saying, Dylan, I'm sure the dancers were sad you didn't give them the good dick down that they were anticipating. As good of a smusher as I intimately imagine Dylan to be, I don't know if he would be everybody's cup of tea, which means We also have to consider the dancers are likely forced to do this, either through convincing them that they are serving here by allowing people that they don't inherently find attractive to syrup their waffle, or another nefarious way that comes from severing a mind, right? Imagine Helly wakes up on the side of this table, more of her polite manners and knowledge about states are removed, and all she is taught and told is that she must perform this dance and then let men taste the syrup. I don't want to say it like that. Or that she'll go to the break room. Both of those lack consent, regardless of if the person gives that or not, but who really knows what you sign up for when you agree to this procedure? I'm willing to bet these are some of the people that do not get to leave. Plus, if sex is an incentive for a good quarter and Mr. Milchick has more incentives that he can offer,
I can get you any perk you want, Dylan. Hey, this stuff you don't even know about.
what other forms of sexual service could be an incentive for a job well done? It feels like the darkest parts of this company could exist in this line of thinking, with pregnancy being the outstanding theme of episode 6 and world domination through Severance being outright confirmed in this episode. I think we can all but confirm that you should hit that subscribe button and maybe turn on notifications so that next season when Lumon has some weird world eugenic breeding kink revealed, y'all will be the first to know.
Just say the word and I'll get you a coffee cozy literally right now, Dylan. Come on, man. I want to remember my fucking kid being born.
Dylan's story, short, sweet, loved it. He did exactly what he needed to do. He was the hero. He truly carried the people on his team on his back, and he looked to this little cube for reassurance whenever he needed it. I mean, this is such a form of self-sacrifice and selflessness. If what they're doing is taming temper related, man, it really feels like Dylan just did some of the Lord's work. The next up is Irving. He wakes up mid-painting, and of course, there is only ever one thing his subconscious other half wants to bring to life. Someone in the comments pointed out that him having this submerged into his severed memory doesn't inherently mean that he has gone to the testing floor. It means that he has opened the door for someone to enter. He could have just as easily been in Mr. Milchick's role, escorting someone to what I believe will be the start and end of their lives here. Perhaps simply being the person holding the door is enough to warrant the trauma that it takes to cement images for your conceptual other half to see. But maybe that's why Mr. Milchick's face was blacked out while he was holding the door for Miss Casey. He is hurt, and this is something that he also fears too. He knows how dangerous this place is, and he just can't show it. And neither can the show because, well, I guess that's for you to decide. Radar whining like this, as a dog lover, tells me that he knows Irving switched. He can tell that whoever this is isn't his best friend that he knows and loves, and I just think that's such a cute little note. The whimper, you do that for a reason, right? This outlet here did catch my eye, and I really wish they left one plug open so that we could see what kind of plug it was. It really feels like if they showed that it wasn't a standard American plug, that could further, or just be a cool way to mystify the show and the older tech that they have in this state that doesn't really exist in our version of modern reality. Also, this is his first time ever petting a dog. What a great feeling. I hope he brags about it to his coworkers like John Turturro bragged about petting the goats on set.
I petted those goats. I did that all the time.
He then continues going through his own room. This reminds me of that childlike wonder when you dig through your parents' room for, little bits of life that you've never seen before. Mom, if you're watching this, I appreciate you being a day one bad bitch. Also, you needed to make the family computer password far better. My love for cybersecurity started the day I brute forced Windows 95 so that I could play World of Warcraft after you went to work. I'm not too familiar with military medals. If anybody is, please, chime in the comments below. These could have a great meaning in show to show specifically how Irving served in the military or his father, as we will dive into a little bit later. We see him enter the closet, pun intended. We see these cans here and this wooden handle brush for shining shoes. I think this tells me that he actively maintains his military things. Belt buckle and shoes are the only things that I remember from ROTC, but I'm sure, there's some shining to be done here. More medals appear above his bed, and this picture here interests me, though I can't really get a clear image to see what it actually is. This trunk is the holy grail of intel. We love a good trunk, and then boom, the gay sailor trope. I made a comment about it being funny that he's a gay character on the inside, and they make his Audi a Navy seaman. Then I got a comment asking about why it's funny. It's funny because the Navy is super gay. Like, look at these little tight. He finds a picture of his dad, which does leave some wiggle room here for these articles to not be his, but his father's. And Irving may have never served. However, the polish being out, the dog name Radar, the gay thing, we know the truth. It's Navy. Then the big pictures start coming out, a hidden stash of recon stored in a very non-digital way. We can see a site plan, which could be the main Lumon campus or any of the Eagan-owned businesses ruling this town. An invoice from a company called Lateral Logistics. This is an arrest warrant behind this. The document on the left details a former Lumon employee suing the company for, oh dear, a whole mess of things. This article details a throbbing pain in his finger that started the moment he passed the severance threshold on his way home from work. The Lumon-appointed doctor gave him a salve, which we first heard about in episode 1.
They began in the 1800s.
Really?
Topical salves, right?
And it being used here to poor effect makes me question how successful Lumon Pharmaceuticals actually was. Maybe that's why they got into tech. After he consulted a doctor not on the Lumon's payroll, they find out that it was blunt force trauma not caused by an accident, something purposeful, which screams the break room to me. Perhaps it was a little more hands-on at one point, and then this case made all of the torture into things that only torture the mind and don't leave marks on the body. The doctor then recommended leeches to help regain blood flow, and that if it was given proper medical care after the accident, he likely would be fine. It's not clear how long ago this lawsuit was or if it is still happening, but it's interesting that Audi Irving is concerned about what is happening to the other severed workers, and I wonder if he has also had bad experiences himself. This new angle shows what I believe is 1 Lumon Boulevard, which makes me think that this was the document that he stole from the Lumon building, like the main campus here, because that's like, it feels like an Apple campus. Going back to the Lateral Logistics page, I believe it says expedited customs delivery, 4 pallets, non-flammable, shipping code 9993, packing materials, and then green material carbon offset. Not sure if any of that is important, but shipping does come up in the season 2 trailer. Tiny spoiler there, but also this is the finale, so I'm assuming there is no spoilers anymore. The biggest and best thing to talk about here, of course, is the severed employee list. Audi Irving has been collecting information, both about Lumon and the other severed workers. Starting at the top, we see version 4, duplicates removed. It makes me want to dive into a rabbit hole about why and how duplicates would be on a severed employee list, but I recognize that as bait. Really, it's just telling us that he has been working on this for a little bit now. Age 48 being underlined and question marked feels important. Some have addresses, some have X's, other have circles highlighting absolutely nothing. It feels like this was just whatever information he could find on each employee, and sometimes that was only their age. Other times it was the degree and severance start date. He tries to make contact with one person and then crosses their name out. Feels super ominous. Same with marking the importance of a person named Joe who is divorced with no kids, as children and pregnancy likely relate to Lumon's grand evil master plan. Seems like Audi Irving is sensing something similar. Perhaps Joe not having kids or a wife at home would make it easier for him to simply vanish into the Lumon back rooms. Irving was keeping an eye out to make sure he didn't just disappear one day, or, maybe not. Maybe after he tried to make contact with Karen, she vanished, and that's why she's X'd out now. No real evidence there, just throwing out some thoughts and theories. The next page shows more information about the car accident case before, a little note that says, did the settlement lead to severance, which, man, I have no idea what that could mean. More notes about age and marriage status, sons and spouses. This person volunteers as a softball coach for kids in STEM. A lot of random information. Bert G's address gets leaked, and then we see more blurry text. Irving then takes out the Kier regional map. We see more names listed, noting where he has likely discovered severed people living. It is a creepy catalog without context, and frankly, we still don't have that context. Audi Irving could be a military spy sent to gain intel, or he could be a serial killer. I just want to not overlook that fact. We see Mount Pleasant, Vale Cemetery, St. John the Baptist Cemetery, Park View Cemetery, a few other names to note, but really, it just feels like there's too many cemeteries to have noted on a travel map, right? I don't know. Like, the show's doing something. I mean, we know why the show's doing something. It relates to death. We've been talking about this for 10 episodes now. But yeah, too many cemeteries. He then finds some mail. He finds his home address, which is just so smart. He then traces the route to Burt Goodman's house. As he does this, the coldest sacks here, they kind of look like a motherboard, right? I'm sure that is intentional, but the depth is just not yet apparent. One of the comments last video talked about how the board could also infer a circuit board or a motherboard. So maybe that's, maybe the board is like the region. Maybe whenever you're doing something for the board, you're actually doing it for the region, like the good of the people, which I'll be honest, that has some cool depth now that I'm saying that aloud. I feel like that really could be it. Serving the board could mean that you're doing the good for the people, like you're serving utilitarianism. All of these cars are like 30 to 40 years old, maybe less. I don't really know. I'm not a car person, but they are older cars. It's weird. It's not modern. It really feels like some other reality type stuff is happening at Kier, or maybe Kier has monopolized every market that we've seen in the outside world, and it keeps the region at a relatively lower tech by controlling the supply and demand. And you could do this for a million reasons. You could do it for cost. You could do it for control. You could do it, to control the amount of information. Like, we do see that an internet is accessible here. Like, we see the articles, we see journalism, but internets and networking is a wildly interesting thing. We don't see them go to Reddit. This could all truly be in a intranet that is localized to Kier, and maybe they have the appearance of being able to get outside world news, but we simply do not know that they are able to access anything outside of this town. I really think that whatever it is, it relates to control, and maybe a better way to show the haves and the have-nots. The wealthy are so far advanced that they don't even need to experience labor. The poor sever themselves for a paycheck so that they can buy cars from 40 years ago and jukeboxes that were invented before CDs came out. The license plate here shows HDR 559, which is just so close to MDR. We see Remedium No Mink Bus, which is very Latin for cure of mankind or cure for mankind. I think in a past video I've gone into enough detail proving that Lumen Scope is the world, and that of course aligns here. It is ingrained in the society. Though another thing that this could mean is the cure for mankind, as if mankind was the sickness itself and they were actually aliens here to infertilize the entire world. So sit with that, dorks. Irving is then driving for the first time ever, and then this crazy person comes zipping by, but he doesn't have any time for that. It's Burton time. After Irving makes it to the cozy single-family home of Burt G and carefully, quietly, secretly watches them through the windows in the middle of the night and observes their private moments like a very sane person, he discovers that Christopher Walken is also gay. He has a loving husband and warmth being coddled with this blanket. Irving's story ends with him working up the courage to approach and starts banging on the door like a completely sane and logical person would do in the middle of the night while watching through the window. These people have an intimate moment. Again, these dudes were just chilling, and then a random stranger parks out front and then starts screaming Burt in the middle of the cold, dark night while banging on the front door. It's not a good look. And then, of course, we come to... Actually, I'll let you choose. Mark or Helly. Which one would you like to see first? Mark it is. Good choice, refiners.
How many kids do you have?
Just gave birth to my third. I should have stopped at 2.
Helly has a brief discussion with Gabby and her husband, confirming that she was severed for her pregnancy, that she couldn't believe people would try and outlaw it. What it's telling us here is that this person has a clear lack of empathy for herself. She is the overlord to breeding cattle, and she doesn't even know it. She doesn't even acknowledge it. She has no consideration for the other part of her that is truly experiencing the thing that she loathes so much that she would have to sever to not go through it.
I think, well, seeing that and seeing you and hearing what you have to say, let's change some minds.
This starts building the tension that Helly will have to speak during this event that she has no knowledge about, that she just spawned into. And the stakes are changing all of the minds that doubt them.
Thank your father if you see him.
I will.
In this very brief little start, she learns that she is an Eagan, the great lineage of Lumon CEOs and New World movers, and that she will be seeing her father in the near future while also having to publicly speak about something that she has no idea about. It's quite a lot going into this moment, but then she starts seeing all of the secret pictures of her life on the severed floor. All of these sweet moments that she thought she lived to some degree of privacy in cubicle walls were actually on display for an entire world of people that she hates. She was the zoo and the token for Severance to convince the world how safe their operation is. In light of the bad press that they had in the news, their ace in the hole is that the CEO's own daughter was willing to subject themselves to the procedure that they find, that the rest of the world finds so cruel and dehumanizing, so surely it must be neither of those things.
One of the things you learn growing up as an Eagan is that the workers are our family. But as I grew older, I learned that it's about shared ideals.
We then have a whole micro montage of Helly speaking about how awesome what she's doing is, while united in Severance messaging. It is a little will they, won't they of messages that paint them in a positive light of unity, while never explaining why they are hurting people to unify. After this little self-empowerment video, she goes to the bathroom. It is a private moment where she can finally breathe again and ground herself as if she was drunk or just simply going through it. And wouldn't you know it, a member of the Eagan family comes into frame.
You look so nice, like a film.
This moment felt so awkward, but only awkward for Helly, if that makes any sense. The CEO had no idea who this was, or that it wasn't the right Helly, but both Radar's dog and Miss Cobell with Mark later knew almost instantly that something wasn't right. Helly might not have anybody that loves her in the real world, and maybe that's because this is the only love that the Eagans have ever shown each other. You don't just get to be the titans of industry by being in touch with your emotions, I guess. Her clothes are also very interesting, green and blue everything. The colors have been important in the show ever since episode 1. There are many theories about them, but the ones that we can confirm are O&D represents green, while MDR represents blue. I'm sure that there's also more depth to that as well. The blue and green here could show us how her two halves are clashing for control over the same body, innie versus outie, brother versus brother. We also see Mr. Eagan's ring, this villain's pinky ring with a picture of the globe on it. It feels like some New World Order shit, and I love it.
I cried in my bed when they told me what she tried to do to you. What that innie tried to do.
This line dehumanizes the innie version of Helena, but of course she wouldn't care. We're seeing the most true feelings of the people who created this system without any boundaries. They aren't people. His daughter trying to kill himself wasn't actually that. It was an attack by the people that they enslave, and that's deplorable because the overseers should have been doing a better job.
Thank you for going through with it. The grandfather would cherish what you've done.
This is such a great line. I'm surprised I don't quote this more. The grandfather will cherish what you've done. There's just so much power there. The grandfather likely relates to Kira Eagan, though the grandfather could also mean much more, similar to the board or the break room. The grandfather is just such a weird and purposeful weird thing to say here, right? I think there's purpose behind that decision.
And one day you will sit with me at my revolving.
Sitting with him at this revolving is also weird. Like, is this the passing down of power, or do they put their decaying bodies in a centrifuge and it rips every single layer of them into a digital existence? Is this like how they join the board and become a single source of power for the next avatar? I don't know. I hope that is abundantly clear. I do not know what a revolving is, and I cannot wait to find out.
Do you remember when I brought home the first chip to show you? The prototype. It had the blue and green lights back then.
So it seems like the colors are somehow connected to the functions of the implants. Blinking lights and electronics are often used for troubleshooting and diagnostics, perhaps monitoring upload or download connections. Green blinking, maybe it shows the implant is receiving data, while blue shows that it's sending data, or perhaps simply the levels of activity for each conceptual half of your brain, either the logical, emotional left-right brain concept, or just the innies and outies. Macro data refinement being blue and O&D being green makes me view these two teams as something of a duo serving a higher purpose to a higher degree than we realize right now, at least. Optics and design could be an input, like a computer's keyboard is an input, or a microphone is an input, or like the mind's ability to receive information, either optically or any of the senses that we have. Macro data refinement could be the team finding out which things are scary or pleasant and then pushing that output. It would essentially turn the entire severed floor into a single hive mind processing new information for a specimen that we don't have a scope for yet. But it truly could be anything at this point. The 3D printers are the chips receiving new information, and then those items are serialized and then turned into the numbers that ultimately represent why sometimes we see some things and we just don't like it, but can't really explain why. Like maybe MDR is that little team of hamsters in your brain that is processing what it's seeing. But really, the entire show is about this mystery, and these are just kind of the theories that I'm coming up with in the moment about how this could be processing and how these lights could relate. I would love to know more about your thoughts about the colors and correlations or anything else relating.
I remember you said to me, "It's so pretty, Daddy. Everybody in the whole world should get one. They will, because of you."
And then boom, worldwide plot trying to make everybody a severed version of themselves so that they will all be Kier's children. And of course, we just learned from Helly what that really means is having a single shared set of beliefs. It is the Third Reich all over again. It's global domination done so tastefully that it doesn't feel like a Saturday morning cartoon. It's wealthy people in suits plotting on how to get the rest of the money from the far more numerous working class that could just as easily unify against them if they don't take action to tame the world's tempers for them. They will believe what they are doing is good. They already do. And Helly is hearing that everything she has experienced is because of herself and this grand plot.
Forgive me for the harm I have caused this world.
This is such a cool way to reclaim this mantra, and perhaps the only time we ever see her truly sorry for what she has done. She feels remorse. She feels like she needs to do something about the harm that she has done to the entire world. She leaves that bathroom ready to wreck shop, and then we see Miss Cobell speeding to intercept. Her leaving the car like this is so funny to me. I'm starting this rumor because I'm a mischievous little scamp, but this wasn't scripted. Patricia Arquette just did this, and these are really the techs on set scrambling to stop it from hitting a wall. There you go. Spread that to your friends. Let me know what happens.
I'll tee you up. Just stick to the talking points. Use the line about how you see your innie as your sister. They'll love that.
As Natalie tees up Helly for some legendary shit talk, we hear this.
As with any transformative technology, there have been setbacks. But I'm here tonight to tell you that we are on the verge of a revolution. A kind and empathetic revolution that puts the human being at the center of industry.
They tell us that the human being is at the center of industry, and of course we hear from Ricken.
At the center of industry is dust.
This is when Miss Cobell gets handsy.
Center of industry.
Is it you?
And then we see one of my favorite interactions of this first season.
I'm gonna kill your company.
Your company.
This was just so powerful, and Miss Cobell does all that she can to stop her, but of course, it doesn't work.
Mark will suffer. You'll be long gone. But we will keep them alive.
Miss Cobell's note is haunting. I think this is entirely a possibility going into season 2, and we would be foolish to forget this punishment and this line. Season 2 could look like anything, and then they still managed to turn that into the punishment and reveal that everything that we've seen is simply the torturous punishment of the people that acted out against them. They would have to do this tastefully so that the character's progress isn't set back and the audience don't feel like we're just being set back in time in the plot as well. But all of season 2 or a lot of season 2 could truly be them in the punishment or them trying to break out of the punishment, and we just don't know it yet. In the background, we do hear this line from Natalie about Keir Eagan.
A man who saw humans in agony and decided that we could do better. He may never have seen a severance chip in his lifetime, but it represents his gentle and elegant vision made manifest.
In the handbook, we see the story about Keir Eagan learning the value of amputees that love their work, and we have some parallels between him making a wooden chicken skin prosthetic for his friend to Miss Casey being brought back from the dead. The fear of death is the ultimate suffering for humanity, so someone seeing humanity in agony could be trying to create a final solution to stop the Grim Reaper. This reminds me, in the bathroom, they say the first chip was created when Helly was a child. So this is very new stuff, and it is very, very likely that much of Keir Eagan's font of philosophy was simply the groundwork for this system of control done by someone else in the lineage, and never anything that he actually intended, unless they are truly trying to revive this dead man, and some stuff in episode 3 about the history living within us does make that theory have some validity, but I don't know. Maybe we will get to meet the grandfather after all.
Helena Eagan!
Helly then takes center stage. Coming from these two doors that split her face in half, she has quite a lot to say.
I'm an innie. No. Listen, we're not happy. We're miserable. We're prisoners! They torture us down there!
And then, boom, Dylan is tackled. It is hard to say if Natalie tackling her was the right play, but I'm imagining a shaken up Helena about to stand up and sort things out like a boss. I really do expect Helena to be a force to be reckoned with. If she is able to stand up and explain that all of this was a bad joke or something to get herself out of this situation, I feel like that would be so powerful and really shape the odds that our heroes are going against. It could also undermine all of the progress of the season, so maybe that won't be it. But either way, I'm hoping that Helena gets some screen time in season 2 so that we can see how the future of the company that was suspected of trying to take over the world will behave. And I think she is going to be a monster. I know Hitler gets brought up a lot in like everything, but it really feels like this is the daughter of Hitler, right? This is like the new age, high concept, how we can be bad people.
I am a person. You are not.
And I really feel like that's what Helena's character might be. I feel like she's going to be super smart and a force to be reckoned with. Then finally, we come to Marky Mark. After escaping Miss Cobell and finding a moment to breathe and reflect, we get another moment of these innies viewing themselves as they really are, or as they really are outside of work, what they wear and how they style the existence that they were created to finance. It's pretty cool. All three characters had this moment. On the way into the bathroom, we see these blurry pictures. We see a lot of paintings in this house, to be honest. This one feels like it is the most important one. It's chaotic. I really don't know what to make of this, but let me know what you think as well. The picture in the bathroom does look like it is a self-portrait of Ricken with an inflated head or sense of self. Feels like it's kind of showing us that he is a little self-aware, or at least can humor the joke that he is too full of himself.
So Rebecca smells weird.
Rebecca smells weird?
And I really want to investigate that for depth, but if it's anything but a brother and sister speaking candidly, I would be shocked.
She was making chewing noises, but she was not chewing. Just be prepared, because you might have to share a book with her. The one you forgot to bring, even though I did remind you.
Again, Outie Mark is not being a good brother-in-law to Ricken, and now Innie Mark has to share a book with Smelly Rebecca. It's interesting that Helly was thrust into a situation where she had to stand and speak, while Mark was given a situation where he had to sit and listen. I don't know really why I want to highlight that, but I feel like that could be something cool.
How's our baby?
I'm going to assume you mean that in the It Takes a Village sense, and she's good.
It's funny that Devin and Mark's relationship is so incesty that Innie Mark believes that this is his wife and child.
I want to have the life change talk. I just need a pump before I die. I'll be really fast.
Okay.
And then we hear this line from these two here.
Thesis.
No, I agree. It's very confused.
Mark, hello.
Now these two, enablers, coattail riding enablers who debate if the baby being presented at this event muddies the message.
Mark, we were just discussing whether it might have been a wiser move for your sister to put off introducing the child until after tonight's event.
And listen to this patriarchal knob talk about the baby as if it was Devon's thing, or if it's her announcement, as if the great Ricken was premiering his book and Devon's thing threatened to steal the spotlight. It's gross. Even more so when we see that Ricken was the one that announced the baby in his dedication later on. It's likely his idea to have the baby out and in the limelight so that he could feed his own grand image of a caring father that he is stressed about, repeating the cycles with.
I just don't want to be like my father.
No, baby.
And all she is doing is existing as a mother and truly being the most supportive partner that she could possibly be. I swear this shit is so well written, it baffles me sometimes. I've seen this 10 times, probably more. I got high once and watched the entire finale on mute. Not even a joke. But sitting down to study this scene the first time really shows me how detailed this little interaction is. These two are knobs.
Obviously, the child is an absolute angel.
That's my sister with the baby?
Exactly, it's his sister.
Excuse me.
Mark learns that the attractive woman was his sister, and then he meets Rebecca.
I've been asked to share my book with you. I have small eyes, so I have to read pretty close.
She is ridiculous and likely the most real person in this group. I hope she continues being a character in season 2 because I've seen some theories. The scar in the back of her head from her birds, I've seen people equate that to evidence of an implant being inserted recently. That could be interesting, but really we have nothing that shows the implants cause visible scarring, nor have we seen scars at all. So it feels like maybe nothing.
This is going to sound weird. We're close, you and I.
Before they can have a private moment together and chat, it is go time for Ricken. This is when Mark sees the book for the first time and realizes that he is about to meet his idol.
Sorry, you can't unring the bell. Ringing app.
That is when we hear this little dedication.
Before we start, there is one person that I would like to thank first and foremost. To my firstborn daughter who is here tonight. Eleanor, I love you.
This line just feels so weird to me. The Eagan family has been the most important thing all season, and now that he is in this position of authority, he looks like he could be a member of the Sith as well. He dedicates this reading to his poopy diaper daughter, while his loving and incredibly supportive wife just stands there and holds her.
Family, both my bedrock and my inspirations. Eleanor, I love you.
I don't think anything is inherently wrong with what he did, but her little expression here makes me feel like she did feel some kind of way about not being mentioned. This is her politely saying, I did just carry this child for 9 months and do the hardest thing in the history of humanity, but sure.
And with that, I begin.
Miss Cobell joins the situation for some nice added tension, and the thing that Ricken starts with is the philosophy of you. The you are is the title after all, and I have to imagine some amount of time is spent trying to conceptualize you. Is it the you hearing me speak right now? Is it the you thinking about that fourth wall break? Are you the person thinking, or are you the person thinking about thinking?
That eats the shrew, and we, like Schrodinger, live on to wonder.
I think he messes up the name here to keep the audience, like us, with the mindset that he is really a fool with confidence, but we've talked about that before.
It's transformative. Gonna have to change my name again.
What a wordsmith.
Rebecca might not be the realest in the room, actually, but she is feeling the book in a way that I think that we need to highlight. This is the possible impact the book could have on the world. Before, he talked about the thief returning the stolen words if they were actually read because they would be so moving. Miss Cobell says the words are pretty but focuses more on his mouth. She is a hater in the situation but still offers that it was well written. We see that the creator of the show is in the background here, as if it was some kind of meta commentary about how this book is so good it influenced the creation of the show. If my theory about Ricken and Eagan mirroring the lifestyle of each other is true, we are seeing the type of man that Eagan was without having to go back to the Ether Factory. I think this book may be something incredible. I don't think it is just this little circle gassing him up. It may reach the world in a way that the Eagans actively strive for as well. I don't know if Ricken is an Eagan, though that theory is fairly popular, but I think he represents the good words and good intentions that can often get away from us. Ricken might have some logic behind him, but Rebecca and the other enablers who take credit for missing babies might do anything with these words. They might radicalize because of them. And I think that that radicalization is something that we also saw in the Eagan family with the words from Keir Eagan. This feels like how a cult starts. And to me, that just screams the start of Lumon becoming this business religion thing.
You sound like a sad old hamburger waiter prattling on about sauces. You hamburger waiter, what the fuck is that? Jesus, why do I ever open my buffoon mouth?
This shows us his insecurities after a resounding performance. He is vulnerable in a very Ricken way, and then gets some real love from any Mark who doesn't append all of the other baggage of Ricken being a little eccentric in the real world, like Audi Mark does. Any Mark sees him for the words that he offers, not how he looks while he is speaking. And at the end of the day, isn't that what having an open mind is all about?
I mean, the book is brilliant.
Okay, Mark, thank you. You don't have to say that. I'm well aware of how I come across to you.
Fuck Audi Mark. Losing a partner is not a license to be a dick to your brother-in-law, and this man should not feel like his number one hater is sitting front row at his super important book reading. The only reason there isn't tension between these two men is likely because every single situation where Mark disrespects Ricken, he turns the other cheek. Of course, we don't really know that, but that's the vibe I'm getting.
Mark, are you okay?
Yes. Are we friends?
He doesn't answer the question, but apologizes for making Mark feel less than for having the procedure. It feels like another way to show the tension that is felt actively between these two, but is never actually being addressed by either of them. Before Ricken can reveal Gemma's face to any Mark, his Neti Pot is ready, and he promptly leaves. Neti Pots are awesome, but it's one of those things where it's meant to be ridiculous. Like, he's just standing there speaking, and to most of the world, it's like, just, take a sip of water. But he needs a Neti Pot. He needs like a little incense burning and the proper humidity so that his throat doesn't mess up. The point of a Neti Pot and this ridiculous nature is something that I talked about before, where it really is about the words that he's saying. They're making him look like a fool, because the fool in historical text, in history, is the person who is truly speaking the truth to the king.
Mark, I was worried about you.
He tries to avoid the prying eyes of Miss Cobell, and just as it seems like he is out of the lion's den.
Okay, thanks, Miss Cobell.
What an incredible moment. First time watching this, freaking hype. So good, such a great way to do this. Mark goes to the room to wait for Devin, and then she gives the baby to the sussy baka imposter.
Okay. I'm all yours.
Honestly, that could have been another little incest joke, or maybe I'm just hearing it because of how much if that was another incest joke, they're pushing it. Population control, lineage, family lines, incest does fall into that quite easily when you consider all of the ancient cultures that once thought that inbreeding was how you kept your bloodline secure. Not saying that that is happening, but I hope it is.
This is so insane.
They need to send people down to check every inch of that place, like inspectors or whatever.
They are finally able to have their alone time together, and Devin tries to take everything in while Mark spills.
He lost his wife. You lost your wife.
It's another touching moment as Devin explains the car accident, the failure to resume his teaching career, the immense trauma that he needed to numb.
You tried to go back to teaching 3 weeks after she died? It was a disaster. She was just still in your veins.
This line stood out to me as we learned in episode 3 that the history lives within us and the forgotten man doesn't die. I believe that this was meant to be subtle, as we don't yet know how the history lives within us according to the TV show, but I think you describe trauma like this for a reason. She was still in your veins, and that led to him taking a severed job to get her out. If it's ever revealed that she exists down there because of him, I think we really need to look at episode 3 again and truly consider how they are extracting the history that lives within us.
We were all really close. She was wonderful. She made you wonderful.
I love this line, not to say that he isn't wonderful on his own, but there is a difference between a man and the same man in love. I can only speak from experience here, but love makes you wonderful. It can also make you insane. That's how powerful it is. It can make you a different you. I wonder if Imogen and Keir understood that as well while they started the company that would go on to end the world.
I am journalists in New York.
And you think that's better than the police?
Well, Lumon has their hands in so many pies.
They want to go to the press and exclude the local police because the threat of them being on Lumon's payroll and that influencing their moral objectivity is so real. And I think that we need to keep that in mind whenever we're deciding how in control Lumon is of this entire city.
Jesus, I totally forgot. Why is Cobell here?
Mark, are you talking about Mrs. Selvig? And she works at Lumon?
Yeah, she's my boss.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Loved this moment. You can see the refined panic in Devon as she pieces together the immense danger that her child is in. Also, when she realizes her fears are true and the baby is missing.
What is going on?
Oh my God, her car's gone. I gave her the baby and she left.
Look at this emotion. This is acting. This woman has convinced herself that the car being gone meant the worst, and she feels that when she goes outside. I just love it. This actor did such a good job.
Have all these rooms been checked?
He literally pushes him, the uncle who found her, the baby that was missing, out of the way so that he can return the baby before Mark, and he says this. It's gross. It's done solely to further his own status. But again, it shows the kind of people that are hearing this Ricken gospel and will add their pretentiousness to that, ultimately how it will be talked about and spread throughout the world. The best part of this interaction is that Audi Mark won't know the truth. He will get away with this and likely beat himself up over the action more than anybody else. And I hope that that presents in season 2 in kind of a comical way where he really feels bad. Like he thinks that Mark and him have beef and Mark, he has no idea, right? I feel like that would be such a funny scenario. Mark then finds the picture of Gemma. Check out all of these other pictures. We see Mark and Devon as a loving couple, assumingly. We see Ricken and Devon working in a kitchen, assumingly. We see Ricken likely on his backpack tour that he wrote about, likely. Him holding this little trophy. And if anyone can make this word out, please let me know. It feels like this could help us understand what the trophy was for, but it's not obvious to me right now. Mark is shaken up. He realizes the truth and he runs to the middle of the party to scream. He's alive! And that is how the first season of Severance ends, just like that. And now you, watcher, will either have to wait a few days before the next episode or it will already be out. I have had to wait for almost 3 years for this moment. I cannot wait to see how this cliffhanger resolves and how the team behind Severance can live up to the hype or surpass it. What was essentially an incredible season 1 premiere of this TV show and this universe. I have the highest of hopes. I have dozens of theories. I am debating doing a live show after each episode so that we can start theory crafting about what's going on right away. Please keep in mind that I do work a full-time job and do this far more than full-time as well. This is my art. If you are enjoying this, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, commenting about incest, or joining Patreon today. Thank you so much for being here, and truly, I cannot wait to watch season 2 with all of y'all and continue the conversation. I started doing these deep dives for Severance years after it aired, and it feels kind of funny that the first season is now finished. Expect some more theory videos now, expect some more prediction videos, but with that, we come to the end of the video. Much love, everybody, and I cannot wait to talk to you all again soon. And it being used here to poor effect makes me question how successful Lumon Pharmaceuticals... Jesus fuck. My mouth doesn't work sometimes. Also, I'm making more incest jokes.